concerned with a much more direct way of coming to an understanding of thatness, as it's called, tathata in Sanskrit. So Zen has been summed up with 4 statements. A direct transmission outside scriptures and apart from tradition. No dependence on words and letters. Direct pointing to the human mind. And seeing into one's own nature and becoming Buddha. That is, becoming enlightened, awakened from the normal hypnosis under which almost all of us go round like somnambules. It's extraordinary how much interest has existed in Zen in the United States, especially in the years since the war with Japan. Naturally, I've often meditated on the reasons for this interest. I think, first of all, the appeal of Zen lies in its unusual quality of humor. Religions aren't, as a rule, humorous in any way. Religions are serious. And when one looks at Zen art and reads Zen stories, it is quite apparent that something is going on here which isn't serious in the ordinary sense, however sincere it may be. The next thing I think that has appealed to Westerners is that Zen has no doctrines. There is nothing you have to believe, and it doesn't moralize at you very much. It's not particularly concerned with morals at all. It's a field of inquiry rather like physics. And you don't expect a physicist to discuss authoritatively about morals, even though as a human being he has moral interests and problems. But as a physicist he is not a moral authority. Or if you go to an oculist or ophthalmologist to have your eyes adjusted, that is so you can see clearly. And Zen is spiritual ophthalmology. Another thing that appeals very much to Western students about Zen is that they've read their Zen from Suzuki and from some of my writings and from R.H. Blythe. And these people present a rather different kind of Zen from that which you will find today in Japan. They present what is essentially early Chinese Zen, from the old writings, ranging from about shortly before 700 AD to 1000 AD. That Zen has a very different flavor from modern Japanese Zen. And so, of course, many of the people who go to study Zen in Japan disapprove of Dr. Suzuki thoroughly, and also, naturally, of my exposition of Zen, because we don't make a great fetish of studying Zen by sitting. In Japan today, they sit and they sit and they sit. R.H. Blythe asked the Zen master, what would you do if you had only 1/2 hour left to live? And he said, I would do zazen, which means he would sit like the Buddha here and practice meditation. And Blythe had given him several choices. Would you like to listen to your favorite music? Would you have a dinner? Would you get drunk? Would you like the company of a beautiful woman? Would you take a walk? What would you do? Would you just go on with your daily business if there's nothing going to happen? In other words, would you wind up your watch? So he was very disappointed at this answer. And he said, you know, sitting is only one way of doing Zen. Buddhism speaks of the 4 dignities of man: walking, standing, sitting, and lying. And so Zazen is simply the Japanese word for sitting Zen. There must also be walking Zen, standing Zen, and lying Zen. You should know, for example, how to sleep in a Zen way. That means to sleep thoroughly. then has been described as when hungry eat, when tired sleep. And when the student got that description, he said, well, doesn't everybody do that? The master said they don't. When hungry, they don't just eat, but think of 10,000 things. When tired, they don't just sleep, but dream innumerable dreams. So in a sense, this sounds like the old Western truism. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. But that's not the same thing as Zen.
And we can communicate with each other by virtue not only of sharing a common language, but also, more importantly, by sharing a common view of the world, a common type of sensuous experience. Of course, while those who have the type of sensuous experiences which we call hallucinations and illusions do not fit easily into a community. But every so often, the paper goes on to show, social cosmologies, views of the world held in common by society tend to break up. And actually, he starts the paper in the 15th century, then through the expansion of the Western world, through not only exploration of the surface of the globe, but greater knowledge of astronomy begins to break up the geocentric view of the Ptolemaic universe. The idea of going beyond the communal view of the world and somehow managing to get along without it is not a new thing. It's very interesting that in ancient Indian society, and to some extent even still in modern Indian society, that when a man has done his work in society and is able to hand over his past duties, whether they be priestly or political or professional, to his son or sons, that, as I think you all know, he, as it were, abandons the world and gives up caste and becomes what is ordinarily called a sannyasi. We speak of that usually as holy man or hermit or spiritual devotee of some kind. But what is of particular interest in this connection is that the abandonment of caste is also called entering into the state of vanaprastha. A vanaprastha in Sanskrit means a forest dweller. And in this sense, a man who gives up caste goes back, as it were, to the style of life that predates the agrarian culture. He goes, as it were, back to shamanism. And this is true not only in Indian culture, but also in Chinese. For whereas the Confucian way of life represents the community of Weltanschauung, that is, what the mandala corresponds to, the enclosed, nice little, tight little world in which we feel we understand each other and understand our environment. In China, the Taoist philosophy is the philosophy corresponding to the Indian search for liberation or moksha, liberation, that is to say, from the socially conditioned view of the world. And there is evidence to show that the Taoist solitary sage has some sort of ancestral connection with the shaman.